Nicholas Ashford stood outside the small bakery, rain beginning to fall on the evening streets. At 40 years old, he had perfected the art of controlling every situation. As CEO of Ashford Enterprises, he negotiated billion-dollar deals before breakfast. But tonight, he faced a problem money alone couldn't solve. His mother's 70th birthday dinner was in 2 hours. The entire family would be there. And for the past 6 months, they had been relentlessly pressuring him about being single, suggesting women, arranging encounters, treating his personal life like a business merger that needed completion. He was exhausted by it, so he had made a plan. Hire someone to play his girlfriend for one evening, someone who would smile, nod, and help him get through the dinner without another lecture about finding a wife. Simple, transactional, controllable. Nicholas checked his watch and pushed open the bakery door. The warm scent of fresh bread and vanilla enveloped him. Behind the counter stood a young woman in a simple blue t-shirt and skirt, flour dusting her hands. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked up as the bell chimed. "We're about to close," she said apologetically. "But if you need something quick, I can help." "I'm looking for someone," Nicholas said, glancing at his phone. "Natalie Brooks?" The woman's expression shifted from polite to wary. "That's me. Are you Nicholas?" He nodded. "Thank you for agreeing to meet." Natalie wiped her hands on her apron and stepped out from behind the counter. She looked younger than her 32 years, with tired eyes that suggested long hours and hard work. "Your message was unusual," she said carefully. "You said you needed help with a family situation." "I did," Nicholas confirmed. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. "I need someone to pretend to be my girlfriend for one evening. A family dinner. 2 to 3 hours maximum. You would need to smile, make conversation, and act like you care." "About me?" Natalie stared at him. "You want to hire a fake girlfriend?" "Yes. I'm offering $2,000 for your time." He held out the envelope containing the cash. Natalie looked at it like it might bite her. "Why me?" she asked. "There are services for this kind of thing." "Agencies." "Those feel too transactional," Nicholas admitted. "My assistant found your information through a friend. She said you needed money urgently. Medical bills for your father. I thought this could help both of us." Natalie's jaw tightened. "Your assistant knows about my father? She mentioned you were struggling," Nicholas said. "I'm offering a solution. $2,000 for 3 hours. That's more than fair." "Fair," Natalie repeated quietly. She looked at the money, then at his face. Something in her expression made Nicholas uncomfortable. She was measuring him, and he had the distinct impression he was coming up short. "My father has Parkinson's," Natalie said finally. "The medications are expensive. Physical therapy is expensive. Everything is expensive. So yes, I need the money desperately." "Then we have an agreement," Nicholas said, relieved. "But I have conditions," Natalie continued. "I won't lie to your family. If they ask me direct questions, I'll answer honestly. I'll go to your dinner, I'll be polite and friendly, but I won't deceive anyone about who I am or pretend to have feelings I don't have." Nicholas frowned. "That defeats the purpose." "Then find someone else," Natalie said simply. "I won't compromise my integrity for money, not even $2,000. They stood in silence. Rain pattered against the bakery windows. Nicholas could walk away, find someone more accommodating, but something in Natalie's quiet dignity stopped him. "What if we called it something else?" he suggested. "Not a fake girlfriend, just someone accompanying me to a family event. A friend." "Are we friends?" Natalie asked directly. "We could be," Nicholas said, "for one evening." Natalie studied him for a long moment. Then she took the envelope. "Give me 20 minutes to change and close up the bakery." She disappeared into the back room. Nicholas waited, checking his emails, reviewing quarterly reports on his phone. Anything to avoid thinking about why this felt more complicated than a simple business transaction. When Natalie emerged, she wore the same clothes but had cleaned the flour from her hands and fixed her hair. She looked nervous. "I should tell you," she said as they walked to his car. "I'm not good at pretending. I'm terrible at it, actually. If your family asks me questions, they're going to know immediately that I'm out of my depth." "Just be yourself," Nicholas said, though he wasn't sure he meant it. His car was a sleek black sedan, expensive and impersonal. Natalie slid into the passenger seat carefully, like she was afraid to touch anything. During the drive, Nicholas briefed her on his family. His mother, Margaret, was strong-willed and opinionated. His father, Thomas, was quieter but observant. His sister, Rachel, was married with 3 children and constantly trying to set him up with her friends. "They mean well," Nicholas said. "They just don't understand that I'm fine being alone." "Are you?" Natalie asked. "Fine being alone?" The question caught him off guard. "Of course. I have my work, my success. What else do I need?" Natalie didn't answer, but he felt her gaze on him, assessing again. They arrived at his parents' estate, a sprawling home in the hills overlooking the city. Natalie's eyes widened as they drove through the gates. "This is where you grew up?" she asked. "Yes. Is that a problem?" "No," Natalie said quietly. "It's just very different from my world." Nicholas's mother greeted them at the door, elegant in a navy dress, her sharp eyes immediately cataloging every detail about Natalie. "Nicholas," Margaret said warmly, embracing him. Then turning to Natalie, "And you must be the young woman he's been keeping." "Secret. I'm Natalie," she said, offering her hand. "It's nice to meet you. Come in, come in." Margaret ushered them inside. "Tell me everything. How did you two meet?" Natalie glanced at Nicholas. He had prepared a story about meeting at a charity event. But before he could speak, Natalie answered honestly. "I work at a bakery downtown," she said. "Nicholas came in this evening looking for help with a family situation. He offered me money to come to dinner with him because he's tired of his family pressuring him about being single." Silence fell over the entrance hall. Nicholas's heart stopped. She had just destroyed the entire plan in 30 seconds. Margaret stared at Natalie. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed. A genuine, delighted laugh. Finally, Margaret said, "Someone honest. Come, dear. Let's get you some wine. You're going to need it to survive this family." The evening unfolded in ways Nicholas never anticipated. Natalie charmed his entire family not by pretending, but by being utterly herself. She talked about her father's illness without self-pity. She asked Nicholas's nieces about their school projects with genuine interest. She complimented his mother's home while admitting she'd never seen anything so grand. And throughout it all, she kept glancing at Nicholas with something that looked like concern. During dinner, his father asked Natalie about the bakery. "It's my dream," she said simply. "I saved for years to buy it. The previous owner was retiring and gave me a good price. It barely makes enough to cover expenses, but it's mine. Every morning I unlock that door and I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." "That's wonderful," Thomas said. "Nicholas never talks about his work that way. Perhaps that's because work means different things to different people," Natalie replied diplomatically. But her eyes found Nicholas again, questioning. After dinner, Margaret pulled Nicholas aside while Natalie played cards with his nieces. "She's lovely," his mother said. "She's not my girlfriend," Nicholas reminded her. "You know that." "I know you offered her money to come here," Margaret said. "But what I saw tonight wasn't an act. That young woman genuinely cares about people. She listened to your father talk about his garden for 20 minutes without losing interest. She got down on the floor to help Emma build a card house. When was the last time you did something that wasn't calculated for a return on investment?" "That's not fair," Nicholas said. "Isn't it?" Margaret touched his arm gently. "You've built an empire, Nicholas. But somewhere along the way you forgot how to build a life. That girl in there with her struggling bakery and her sick father, she has something you lost. Joy, purpose, connection." Nicholas watched Natalie laugh as his youngest niece triumphantly placed the final card on their tower. Something tightened in his chest. As the evening ended, Nicholas drove Natalie home. She lived in a small apartment above her bakery, the neighborhood far from his parents' estate. "Thank you," Nicholas said as he pulled up to the curb. "You were honest with them. I appreciate that, even though it wasn't what I planned." "I told you I couldn't pretend," Natalie said. She didn't immediately leave the car. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why are you so lonely?" The question landed like a punch. "I'm not lonely." "Yes, you are," Natalie said gently. "I saw it all evening. You sat at that table with people who love you and you were still alone. You've built walls so high around yourself that nobody can reach you, not even your own family." "You don't know me," Nicholas said defensively. You're right, Natalie agreed. But I recognize loneliness when I see it. I've lived with it too. After my mother died, after my father got sick, I thought if I could just keep working, keep moving, I wouldn't have to feel it. But loneliness doesn't work that way. It waits. Nicholas couldn't speak. Natalie opened the car door, then paused. Your mother gave me her number. She invited me to lunch next week. I probably shouldn't go since this was just a business arrangement, but I like her. She reminds me of my mom. You should go, Nicholas heard himself say. If you want to. Natalie smiled, the first truly warm smile she'd given him all evening. Thank you for the $2,000. It will help with my father's medications. And thank you for the dinner. Your family is wonderful. I hope someday you'll let yourself see that. She left, disappearing into the building. Nicholas sat in his car for a long time, the engine running, rain beginning to fall again. He couldn't stop thinking about her words, about joy and purpose and connection, about walls he'd built without realizing how they'd imprisoned him. The next morning, Nicholas went to the bakery. Natalie was behind the counter, helping an elderly couple choose pastries. She looked surprised to see him. Nicholas, she said, did you forget something? Yes, he said. I forgot to ask if you'd have coffee with me, not as part of a business arrangement, just coffee, as friends. Natalie studied him carefully. Why? Because last night you were the most real person I've talked to in years, Nicholas admitted. And I think I could use more real in my life. I have a break in 20 minutes, Natalie said slowly. But I should warn you, I'm only interesting when I'm being honest, and you might not like what you hear. Try me, Nicholas said. They had coffee, and the next day, lunch. Natalie was brutally honest, questioning his priorities, challenging his assumptions about success and happiness. But she also listened, really listened. And slowly, Nicholas began to open doors in those walls he'd built. 6 months later, Nicholas proposed, not with a huge diamond or elaborate scheme, but in the bakery at sunrise, flour on both their hands from making bread together. I hired you to pretend, Nicholas said, but you couldn't. You could only be real. And that changed everything. I really did care, Natalie said softly. From the moment you offered me that money, looking so lost and lonely, I cared. I couldn't help it. At their wedding, Margaret gave a toast. My son came to me with a hired date and left with the woman who saved his life. Sometimes the best things happen when we're brave enough to be honest, even when it's easier to pretend. The CEO who tried to control everything and the baker who refused to pretend found something neither expected. Not a transaction, not a performance, but the kind of love that only grows when two people are brave enough to be real. Sometimes the person we hire becomes the person we need, and sometimes $2,000 buys something more valuable than a fake smile. It buys a mirror showing us who we've become and who we could be. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe. Comment about a time when honesty changed everything. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is refuse to pretend, even when it costs us.